Good evening, folks, and welcome back to an episode of the ARCA Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Colby Evans, aka Starting Park Car from Twitter, and we have a more unique show for you guys today. No race reviews. We are doing double preview show for this weekend, just because this is one of the rare times throughout the year that the ARCA Main Series and the West Division will not only hold races on the same weekend, but also the exact same day. Luckily, not at the same time, but they will be holding races on the same day, and we are here to discuss both of them. The ARCA Racing Series Drivers' Championship is all but locked up. We'll talk about that in a second, but the West Series Championship, we got some big news to cover for that. Lots of big changes in the ARCA West Series, unfortunately, and we've had one of the major driver pairings split in the past couple weeks, so some very big news coming out of the ARCA West Series garage. Decent fields for both series this weekend. Like I said, we'll go over that in a second. We're going to go through my little intro I go through at the beginning of every show, and we'll get right into the ARCA action. So you guys know the drill. Follow me on social media, Starting Park Car on Twitter, for all ARCA tweets, lower budget team tweets. I occasionally tweet stuff about my future racing career and all that other crap. You guys know I love to tweet about. We're getting close to 5,200 followers, so if you could go follow me there, I'd much appreciate it. Like and subscribe to this channel. Turn on that bell for all notifications. You guys never miss a podcast when we go live. We're at 1,300 subs right now, so any more we can gain, the better. And, of course, check out the racingexperts.com for all NASCAR media-related content. And as well, support all ARCA teams. If you haven't given them a follow yet on Twitter, the ARCA Racing Series Twitter account, any ARCA teams, go give them a follow. They need all the support they can get, of course. So, yeah, this is one of the rare weekends out of the year. We usually get this maybe 2 or 3 times out of the year. I believe this is the second time this season where we have had an ARCA main division race and an ARCA West Series race happen to fall on the exact same day. It's weird that a series like this actually has 2 different races going on both sides of the country. Almost the exact same time. You got, not necessarily both sides of the country. I mean, we know Salem's in the Midwest, and then of course Roseville is on the West Coast. We'll start off with the West Series. I want us to talk about this first. The biggest news out of the West Series garage. It was never fully announced. It was kind of announced through some sources of mine, some good friends of mine, that Landon Lewis has departed MMI Racing. That was confirmed. That was confirmed by the entry list. There is no Caden Honeycutt will be replacing Landon Lewis in the 17 for this weekend's race at Roseville All-American Speedway. That's shocking, man. Really, really shocking, considering as this was one of the championship favorites outside of Sean Hingorani. They were leading the point standings for most of this year. They had only lost the point standings in the last race. But Landon Lewis, sources say that he is going to CR7 Motorsports. As we know, he ran for that team. He ran for that team at Bristol, nearly won that race before crashing out due to a tire failure. But yeah, he has split. I put a tweet out on my Twitter, and Caden Honeycutt, ironically enough, the guy who drives for MMI Racing, Bruce Cook's team, did confirm it. That he left on his own accord. This was not the team releasing him. This was Landon and Team Hornaday Development leaving on their own accord. Not really sure what the future holds for Landon Lewis, but you got to assume maybe it's something with CR7. Landon Lewis is not necessarily a young guy, youngster. I believe he will be 18 next year. So if he wanted to run full-time ARCA next year for CR7, he could do it. He would have to skip Daytona. They could probably do the deal where he runs the one practice lap, so he gets by technical credit to start the race. But still, I think Landon Lewis might be running ARCA next year for CR7, which I think would be a good fit for him. And for CR7 Motorsports, it'd be a great pickup. But really shocking news out of the West Series garage that Landon Lewis is departed that organization, which really sucks because they hadn't been running the best the last 2 races, of course, but they had won a lot of races this year. They were leading the points. And just to depart from the team with only 4 races to go, it's shocking. Really shocking that he wouldn't just finish out the year. So it tells you things over there might not have been very well. I mean, we don't know that for sure. As for the West Series as a whole, they returned to All-American Speedway, one of my personal favorite short tracks on the circuit, a race I always looked forward to, going back to the K&N days. The West Series at All-American, just because of how small it is. I mean, it is a bare, small track. I mean, it is just so small. It's a great track, beautiful track in Roseville, California. Great little track and a pretty solid field compared to what we've seen. We've seen a lot of 15, 16 car fields in the West Series, and we got way more than that this weekend. We also got some more stuff in the West Series garage. Bradley Erickson has exited Naki Kluwer Motorsports team. Joey East, one of the former drivers for that team, has returned. He will take over the 88. And Bradley Erickson will drive for Joe Farr's team. Number 23 might have some affiliations with GMS. Not really sure about that. But Bradley Erickson is driving for a new organization. Nick Jonides also driving for a new organization. Jan's Towing Racing with Nick Jonides, I believe, is a partner in that. Loudon Jackson Motorsports is not entered for this race. They had planned to enter, but could not find a funded driver. That team has been experiencing a lot of problems. Ever since their Phoenix win, it's kind of like the team has just kind of gone downhill. And unfortunately, now they're just not even running races. I'm not even sure if they'll be back. RJ Smotherman appears to be also with a different organization. He was a longtime driver for Chris Loudon. He is now driving the number 38 for John Wood. Yes, remember John Wood, the former CART Idaho racing team? He was part owner in that. And Wood Motorsports has now been revived with RJ Smotherman and his family and team helping out the organization. But the entry list as a whole is as follows. Again, I'm going to go through these car by car. The number 1 of Robbie Keenely, the 3 of Todd Souza. Sorry if you hear my dogs going upstairs. My brother just got home in his large truck, so my dogs are kind of going crazy. We got the 4 of Eric Nascimento. Buddy Shepard. Remember Buddy Shepard? He drove a couple of races in the 17 car. He'll be in the number 5 for Jerry Pitts. Of course, we know Takuma Koga, good old scene. And I love Takuma Koga's sponsor. If you go to the entry list, Takuma Koga's sponsor in his 7 car literally just says laundry. I'm not even joking. Go if you're watching this podcast right now, go to the ARCA entry list for Roseville. Literally, Takuma Koga's sponsor just says laundry. Like, I love that. It just literally says laundry. For what? I don't know. But it's just laundry. I love that. Tyler Reif in the 13. As we know, Sean Hingorani in the 15. Tanner Reif in the 16. As we mentioned before, Caden Honeycutt is taking over the number 17 this weekend. Eric Johnson Jr. in a second entry for Bill McAnally in the 19. Ethan Nascimento, Eric's brother, in the 21. As previously mentioned before, Bradley Erickson in the 23. RJ Smotherman in the 38. Trevor Huddleston in the 50. Jake Bowman is back in the 55. So 2 cars for the High Point Racing team. Kyle Keller in the 70. Of course, we mentioned Nick Jonides. Will Jalen Mack finally show up to a race? We'll find out. He's entered many, many times. I hope he finally enters a race. According to some sources, he actually plans on showing up, so hopefully they do. And, of course, Joey East and David Smith. Of course, the team owner was Shockwave. Good old David Smith. He's kind of like the Wayne Peterson and Brad Smith of the ARCA West Series, along with Bobby Hillis, just an old guy who loves to race. And also good news to announce, Bobby Hillis Jr. will be returning. At the Las Vegas Bull Ring. He has purchased a car from the John Krebs team, former John Krebs. I don't know if he's purchased a car or he got a car from the former John Krebs team. So good to see that Bobby will be back. And assuming he'll be back probably for Vegas, Madera, and I know he'll be at Phoenix. Bobby will be at Phoenix no matter what, because that's just it's one of the few races that gets big attention for the ARCA West Series. So Bobby will be there. Yeah, I know. A lot of love for David Smith in the chat. You got to love David Smith. I mean, he's part owner in Shockwave. He's just got too much. He's one of those guys, like, he's old. He's got more money than he knows what to do with. So why not go out and do some racing? So I love that. That's what I love about David Smith. He's got money. He's old, and he's just, I'm going to go be a race car driver. I love that, And he's not the fastest, but he's just out there having fun. And he adds great publicity for the ARCA West Series, a full-time sponsored car, and Shockwave, a great company. They're a highly successful company. So I love that. But as you guys can tell, decent field. Well over 15 cars, I believe 20, counted 20 to be exact. So a decent West Series field, and for Roseville in general. Like I said, very, very small track. Last year's winner was Cole Moore. Ironically enough, Cole Moore. Whatever happened to Cole Moore? I just thought about that. Anyone in the chat know what happened to Cole Moore? He was so successful in the BMR Drivers Academy. He was competitive for West Series championships, and then he's just kind of disappeared. If anyone in the chat can tell me what the heck happened to him, because I would really like to know. Anyone in the chat know what happened to Cole Moore? Law school? Oh, law school. Well, hey, I don't blame him then for going to get his law school degree. We've seen that happen to some people, but man, so that's what happened to him. Okay. Well, yeah, I can applaud him for leaving something like racing to go to law school. I respect that. I can really respect that. Boy, that takes balls, though. When you have that kind of racing career ahead of you, and you choose to stop it to go to law school, that's mad respect. I actually respect that for Cole Moore. So props to you, man. I hope it works out for him, and I hope he can become a successful lawyer. But wow, because he was the winner of this race last year. This race last year did feature 22 cars. Only 21 started. By technicality, we only had 20 as we had a start and park, and the 39 couldn't even get going. This race last year was chaotic. We had 10 cautions for 65 laps. Somehow this race was run in under an hour. That's of how small the track is. It's a 1/3 mile track. Not even a quarter. It's a little bit bigger than a 1/4 mile. It's a 1/3 of a mile track. The laps here click off like nothing. It's amazing how fast these guys get around here. I'm expecting nothing less from this race. This track is going to be just so chaotic. We got a lot of heavy hitters in the field. In my opinion, most notably the guys in the field that I feel like are going to be the toughest to beat. Just also going off of last year, Todd Souza, I feel like he's going to be really hard to beat in a race like this. He's always been good at Roseville. Tyler Reif, we know how aggressive he is on these short tracks. Sean Hingorani, we know he'll wreck anyone to get to the win. Caden Honeycutt, he's a guy who takes no bullshit, so we know he'll be aggressive. Trevor Huddleston, I'll throw in Jake Bowman, Bradley Erickson. I'll even throw in Joey East. We got a lot of heavy hitters for this one. Throw in Buddy Shepard as potential candidates to win this race. So it's not like I would not give this race to the 15. I know we give a lot of these races to the 15 kind of beforehand, but I'm telling you, I don't know if the 15 is necessarily going to have that. We know the advantage this season. For Venturini has kind of been just the fact that the cars are just better set up than a lot of these West Series organizations. A lot of these West Series organizations just nowhere near have the money that Venturini has. So I think it's the long run speed that a Venturini car can bring. And that's what beats a lot of these other organizations that maybe focus on short run speed. They can hang with the 15, but then as the runs keep going, because we've seen a lack of cautions this year in the West Series, as the runs get longer and longer and longer, that 15 car gets better while the other cars in the field seem to get worse. That's just kind of been my philosophy and my take about watching the West Series this year. The 15 car is set up for long runs, while a lot of these other cars in the field are set up for short runs, because obviously in short track racing, you set up your car for a short run. You don't set it up for a long run. And maybe that's why the 15 cars have been able to take advantage in so many of the races this year. Coming into this race as a whole, Sean Hingorani has won much of the season. That's like I said, they're hard to believe, though, because Landon Lewis himself has also been very successful. Very, very successful. He won, I believe he won at Portland. Landon Lewis won at Portland. And then I think actually just won at Portland. That was it. So he won at Portland. Sean Hingorani's won 4 races. Ryan Preece won at Sonoma. Trevor Huddleston won at Irwindale. And of course, Tyler Reif won that big race at Phoenix. So, but It's mainly been Sean Hingorani this season who has picked up a lot of the wins, 4 to be exact. Coming into into this race, the point standings are as this. Like I said, it's just shocking. It's still shocking to even talk about it. Yeah, I know. It's still I still miss the Sunrise Ford team as well. Yeah, and the PP1 Motorsports 71. Excuse me there. 77 car. It kind of sucks not seeing them there either. But yeah, Sean Hingorani comes into this race. He had a 1-point lead over Landon Lewis, but now with Landon being eliminated, he now has a 24-point lead over Trevor Huddleston. And a 24-point lead in the ARCA West Series is going to be pretty hard to come back from. But we've seen that 50 car lead a lot of laps this year. He's got pretty consistent results. He's won a race. So I wouldn't rule it out yet. Like I said, we still got 4 races to go. And we know that Phoenix will draw 30-plus cars. We know that Phoenix will draw a big field. We know that Madera, the return to Madera, will draw a 20-plus car field. A lot of West Series teams have shown interest in Madera. Bobby Hillis has shown massive interest in that track. So I think Madera will bring a 20-plus car field. This weekend has a 20-car field. So yes, the 50 of Trevor Huddleston is behind. But at this stage in the game, if you're the High Point Racing team, you're 24 points behind. But, man, you're giving it everything you got every single weekend. And we know the Huddleston family is loaded with money. It's not like they're short for money. So if they want to try to throw a hell of a setup at their car and go after that 15, they have the money to do it. I don't know if they have Venturini money, but they've got the money to be competitive. So I wouldn't necessarily give the championship to the 15 yet. Plus, with how crazy Roseville gets, there's a good chance that 15 will end up in the wall. There's a good chance a lot of cars will end up in the wall. But I would not give the championship to the 15 car just yet. I really wouldn't. I think it's still on the table. In second place, we got, second place now is Trevor Huddleston, as Landon Lewis will fall down the card. Tyler Reif is in third place in points, taking over. He is 28 points behind. And then, of course, you got Bradley Erickson and Tanner Reif, who are both 30 and 50. I would say Tyler Reif and Erickson might still have a chance, but they're pretty much a long shot. I think it's come down to Huddleston and Hingorani as your title competitors, because Todd Souza's team just doesn't have the budget to compete with Venturini or Huddleston. So maybe Reif can get up there, but I would say it's kind of a long shot. However, with the 17 still running, it does mean that the Owners' Championship is still up for grabs for the 17 team. And that's why they're probably still running, because as we know, in the ARCA Series, the Owners' Title is really where the financials come. That's where a lot of the money comes from. That's where a lot of excuse me there. It's where a lot of the money comes from. And the East Series pays like $80,000. I think the West Series like $100, something around there. And the 17 car right now is, like I said, only 1 point behind the 15. So for Caden Honeycutt this weekend, yeah, he's going for a win, but he's also racing for an Owners' Championship. Now, we know that, unfortunately, JGR won the E-Series Drivers and Owners Championship, so it will not be a Triple Crown sweep for Venturini this year, despite their best efforts in the E-Series. But they can still go after a double championship in the West Series and main division. So still lots of battles to look out for. Watch the 50 and the 15, and of course the 17 as well, trying to get the Owners' Championship back. In terms of the entry list, like I said, lots of heavy hitters in the field. My pick to win the race is Caden Honeycutt. I know a lot of people are probably just going to pick Hingorani to win this race. They're probably just going to pick Hingorani to win this race. But I'm going to go with Caden Honeycutt. The 17 team, they bring pretty decent equipment to the track. I'm going to go with Caden Honeycutt winning this one. And my dark horse pick, I'm going to go with dark horse pick. I'm actually going to go with Tyler Reif as my dark horse. So I'm going to go with Tyler Reif as my dark horse. I'm going to go with Caden Honeycutt. I don't think Sean Hingorani wins this race. I don't. You know what? I'll say hot take. I don't even think Sean Hingorani finishes this race. I really don't, because sometimes these title fights can get a little ugly. So I don't think Sean finishes this race. Not of his own doing. I think he'll get wrecked. I think Sean will get wrecked, because it's just, sometimes, and, these short track races, sometimes you got to dump the fastest car so you can win the race. And we've seen that happen multiple times in short track racing in the past. So it wouldn't shock me if that 15 car ends up in the wall, not because of Sean's fault. I think he might get wrecked. Wouldn't shock me if the 17 ends up in the wall. Like I said, guys, Roseville is chaos, but it's fun chaos. And that's why the West Series continues to go there every year. It's a very, very fun track. It's a very, very fun track. But, like what we kind of predicted, man, the West Series has the most entertaining championship battle. They seem to do every year. And that's the weird part about the West Division. As much as it struggles for car counts sometimes, the West Series always seems to produce some of the best championship battles. I mean, who could forget back in 2021 when realistically we had 6 guys in the 2021 finale have a legitimate shot at the West Series championship? I mean, that was in 2021. Last year was kind of a, just like an ass whooping by Jake Drew, but still. So, sorry there, guys. I still got a little bit of a cough, so I apologize for that. But yeah, I'm not going to go with Sean Hingorani this weekend. My pick is Caden Honeycutt. And I'll say this, for, Landon Lewis leaving the 17 team, that'd be kind of a stick to him. If the MMI racing team could get a win, it'd be kind of a stick to Caden Honeycutt. Be like, man, yeah, you shouldn't have left us, because we can go out there and still win. So going to be extra motivation for the 17 team this weekend. But hey, if with Team Hornaday development, Landon Lewis has a lot of backing behind him. He's taking a chance on himself. I don't blame him. And I hope it whatever Landon Lewis has planned works out the best for him. I don't know if it's going to happen this year. More than likely to happen next year, because he'll be closer to 18. But I hope it works out best for Landon Lewis, because we never want to see anybody fail on this podcast. As much as we can criticize Sean Hingorani, I don't want to see him fail. I don't want to see any driver fail. And I want to make that very clear about this show. We might be critical on drivers. We might even say drivers suck. Does that mean I want them to fail? No. Just because you say someone sucks doesn't mean you want them to fail. So I don't want anybody in ARCA to fail, ever. But we obviously have our opinions about them, but we never want them to fail. So this race this weekend, of course, the West Series, not on television. Unfortunately, a race like this really should be on television. It will on CNBC at a later date, but you know what I mean, guys. A race like this needs to be broadcasted live. Of course, we know that since this is on the West Coast, that it's at an unfortunate time for us. 10:45 p.m. on the East Coast, 9:45 p.m. on the Midwest Central Time, and like I said, 7:45 over there. So, yeah, it's going to be staying up pretty late for the West Series race. And of course, with 20 cars entered, last place is $1,000. Again, I just wish we could get those purses up by just about an extra $1,000 or $2. First place is $5,000 with all contingency awards, $12,750 for first, $6,325 for second, and $4,050 for third. Let's look at the bottom. I want to see how much this owner's point bonus is real quick. Owner's point bonus. Let's see here. Where is it? $120,000. Okay. So yeah, it's $120,000 is the owner point bonus. So it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money up for grabs. That's $40,000 more than the East Series. And for a lot of these West teams, that chunk of change is what they're after. And as we know, it's the top 15 in owner points that do get a bonus. And right now, the top 15 is currently being held by the 46 of Chris Loudon. Of course, a lot of the teams in the lower top 15 have not been full-time. Of the top 15, 11 cars have run the full schedule, with the 21 car only missing one race, but we'll count them anyway. So 12 cars necessarily have run the full schedule. But yeah, $120,000 split. So a lot of money up for grabs for these West Series organizations. So you can bet, guys, with 4 races to go, it's going to get interesting and it's going to get a little ugly. But yeah, watch it on Flow Racing. If you do not have Flow Racing, get Flow Racing. And they don't pay me to say that, guys. I strongly recommend. I know it's a little pricey. It's $150 a year, but there is so much racing on there. You can go back and watch old races too. You know, it's not like you can only watch the live stuff. You can watch the old stuff too. I would highly recommend it. If you have the money to spend on it, I'm not going to force you to do it, but if you have the money to spend on Flow Racing, get Flow Racing. It is worth your $150 a year. I love Flow Racing. But yes, that is the ARCA West Series. The Napa Auto Care 150. I feel like every ARCA West Series race has been sponsored by Napa this year pretty much. So shout out to Napa for being a big supporter of the West Series. Obviously, without sponsors like that, this series wouldn't even be in business still. So thanks to Menards, thanks to Napa for sponsoring this great series. So that is ARCA West Series preview for All of American Speedway. And now we talk about the main division, which I'm sure most of you came for here anyway. The main division is going to Salem. Yes, the track, probably one of the oldest tracks still going in the U.S., to be honest with you. Salem Speedway. Salem Speedway was built. Salem Speedway, one of the oldest tracks. It was built. When was it built again? 1947. Opened in June of 1947. So one of the oldest running tracks still going in the U.S. Very impressive. And it's a cute little track in Indiana. Not very far. Salem, Indiana, not very far from Indianapolis, the big track. So ARCA Series been going there for a long time. Will Kimmel does a lot for that track with his, Salem Super Series, street stocks, bandoleros that they run there. I mean, Salem Speedway is a beautiful track. It definitely needs some work. The track itself is beautiful, but the whole area does need some work. It still looks like it did 30 years ago. It could use some work, that's for sure. But it's still great to go there. The race got a good sponsor. Atlas is sponsoring the race, Atlas 200. The race entry list is as follows. We got the 0 of Nate Moeller. Peterson bringing 2 cars to this race. 0 of Nate Moeller, the 2 of Andres Perez de Lara, no 6 car, the 10 of Tim Monroe, Zachary Tinkle, another race for him outside of his East adventures, Ed Pompa, Tony Breidinger is back in the 15 this weekend with the Victoria's Secret and Raising Cane's cars, so that's going to be a good-looking car. I would have expected that race would have gone to Sean Hingorani had Sean been available for this race. Obviously, Sean will be in the West race, so I wonder if Sean was supposed to run this one because it's kind of weird seeing Tony in the 15. Normally, she drives a 25. Of course, William Sawallet in the 18, Jesse Love in the 20, Brent Cruz, who won the dirt race at Springfield, Springfield, will be in the 25. Frankie Muniz, still unsponsored, man. Sucks. It's sad seeing it, man. They're unsponsored. Brayton Laster, the pizza man, he'll be running the 31 for Rise Motorsports. Glad they got their car fixed after Bristol. Christian Rose, of course, in the 32. Brad Smith in the 48. John Garrett in the 66. 2 Kimmel Racing cars this weekend, and I do believe the 68 is actually a car from Kimmel Racing. The 68 is Mike Basham. We have seen Mike Basham run some races this year, but they have been – one race was for Kimmel. Some other ones have been in Brad's cars, although Mike Basham of the Basham Racing family, Mike does run in Will's Salem Supercar Series, which if you guys don't know what that is, it is a series that Will Kimmel created. They take Gen 4 cars, Gen 4 Cup cars with the bodies and put 602 crate motors in them. And their suckers are pretty fast. And if you guys, and here, I might as well put it out here for free advertising. If you guys are interested in driving a stock car, I mean, these are real stock cars, 602 crate engines. It is $4,000. You simply get a hold of Will Kimmel via Kimmel Racing. Facebook, online. You can tweet at Will Kimmel. It's $4,000 to drive. And the crash clause is, well, you basically pay what you broke. If you don't break anything, you don't have to pay a crash clause. It's that simple. But I'll give a shout out to Will Kimmel because that's the series that I plan on driving to get approved for ARCA. So if you guys want to get your racing out there, I know it's a little pricey, but $4,000. It's a lot of race car. So I just want to put that out there. You'll be driving a car from Kimmel Racing. That's what I'm trying to say. So cool right there. But I do believe the 68 this weekend is a Kimmel entry. I don't think it is a I don't think it's a Brad entry, because I don't think Brad because usually if Brad did, it would be under the sponsor would be under Brad Smith, not Kimmel Racing. So of course we got Will Kimmel in the 69, Connor Popplewell in the 95. That's a cool last name. Alex Clubb, and of course Kevin Hinkle in the 06. So a decent field. Like I said, Salem has kind of been one of the tracks that's been struggling for field sizes for quite a while. The last few Salem races have been under 20 cars. Either we'll get 20 cars or just under 20 cars. And I think it's just because the area is not somewhere where a lot of teams like to go to. The track itself is quite difficult. It's easy to crash there because you run up towards the wall so much. It's easy to break the car. But yeah, a decent field overall. In terms of people who can win the race, we do have some, this is one of those races where last year we had Sammy Smith. He dominated. You had Sammy Smith, Taylor Gray, Jesse Love, and Will Kimmel were really your top 4 cars. It was really cool last year seeing Will Kimmel. I mean, like I said, he's been around Salem probably 10,000 times. He knows how to set up a car for this track. They were all in last year. They were running the old Fusion nose up against the Mustang bodies. But this year, man, I'm telling you, I am friends with Will Kimmel on Facebook. I have not seen more focus into a race for Kimmel Racing in quite a while than I have seen with this effort for Salem. Now, obviously, Will Kimmel and them put a lot of effort going to DuQuoin, where they finished a very solid 3rd. But I'm telling you, man, they have been prepping for this Salem race for, I would probably say, the entire year. The car looks fantastic. It has been on the setup plates for weeks. It has a Mustang nose on it, a great Ilmore engine. There is no doubt in my mind, Will Kimmel, in my personal opinion, will be one of the cars to beat this weekend. This is probably one of the best shots I think Will Kimmel has ever had at winning a race, and I really mean that. At the end of the day, though, you still got to go out there and beat the big boys of Venturini Motorsports and JGR. Now, William Sawalich, he's been dominant this year, but I don't know how dominant he'll be at a track like Salem. I'm not sure if I think he's probably raced at Salem in late models. I'm not sure. We know Jesse Love's got more experience. He even won the 2021 race at Salem. So we know he's got the most experience out of all of them. But I'm telling you, I think Will Kimmel's got a real chance this weekend. I don't know if he's going to do it, but he's got a chance. I'm going to say that. I'm not just going to say he's filler. Will Kimmel has a chance at this. Starting parks for this race, I would imagine both Peterson cars will probably park early. I know the 0 will. Nate Muller's probably running to get some more laps on Peterson's newer car, the Toyota Dodge car. Tim Monroe's probably going to start and park in the 10. Tinkle and Pampa will be running the whole race. Brayton Laster's full race. Brad will probably run the whole race. He likes to run Salem. The 68 of Basham, I mean, if they're going to bring Mike Basham in the 68 entry, they're probably running him the whole race as well. Alex Clubb, he'll be the full race. So I think it would be the 0, the 06, and the 10 will probably be our only starting parks. Like I said, the cars that, in my opinion, do have a legit chance at the win. The 2, the 69, the 2, the 69, the 18, the 20 are probably the 4 cars that have the best chance of winning. In terms of those cars, though, my pick to win this race, I think will kind of be the pick that everyone's kind of predicting, and that is William Sawalich. Now, again, there's nothing wrong with picking William Sawalich. Obviously, the 18 team's got the most money out of anybody in the field by a lot. But I'm telling you guys, it's just about car control. It's about car control at this track. Last year's race did go caution free. We will say that too. Last year's race did go caution-free. The only cautions for the race were the brakes. So, and I think that's really where the 18 car won last year, because I will say this, during the race last year, we saw Will Kimmel climb as high as third. But I think at the end of the day, his car had more short-run speed than it did long-run speed. It was the Hurst Snacks 200 last year, yeah. And Will Kimmel's car faded there in the end. Like I said, Sammy Smith started on the pole. He led all 200 laps and won. So Jesse Love finished second. Daniel Dye, who's in the truck series now, he finished third. Will was fourth. Taylor Gray was fifth. Rev Racing did struggle at this race last year. They only finished sixth. In this race last year, we only had 6 cars finish on the lead lap. So I would probably predict, depending on how many cars or how many cautions we get, this is probably going to be another race where we only have possibly a couple cars finish on the lead lap, depending on cautions, depending on, the rate that, the guys like the 69, the 18, and the 20 are going to be putting laps down. But I'm just saying, if Will Kimmel can get out front, this is what I mean. Catching them is one thing and passing them is another. But I'll say this, if Will Kimmel can get to the lead, I don't think they'll be able to pass him. I don't think they will. Will Kimmel knows how to run Salem, in my opinion, better than anyone. He's just not had the equipment to be able to compete with JGR and Venturini at this track. He can, but he also can't. But the way that they have set up their car for this weekend, it is so much focus, more focus than I've ever seen them really put into an ARCA race before. And they are really going for it this weekend. So I hope nothing but the best for Will Kimmel. He is my dark horse pick. I will pick Will Kimmel as my dark horse pick. William Sawalich is my main race pick. In terms of the Drivers' Championship, like we talked about over on the West Series side, while those championships are all up for grabs, the Drivers' Championship in the main division is secured. All Jesse Love has to do is hit the track for practice, and he will become the 2023 Drivers' Champion. Kind of what we predicted at the beginning of the year. I don't think anybody really thought that Jesse Love was not going to win this championship. It did look like for a brief moment, though, that after Phoenix, that Greg Van Alst might surprise the field because he had over a 25-point lead in the championship standings. Frankie Muniz was actually second. Jesse Love wasn't even the top 3 in points after race 2. He was actually like 4th or 5th in points. Now, obviously, we know what happened throughout the year. Tony Cosentino's team going away. Jesse Love just blowing the field away throughout the summer. Greg Van Alst going away. Frankie Muniz's team struggling. So it was pretty much a shoo-in that the 20 was going to win the championship after, I would say, race 5, to be honest with you. But while the Drivers' Championship is secured, we still got a badass Owners' Championship to look forward to. And that is really where this series can get so much fun, is that Owners' Championship. Because that's where the big money is, guys. It really is where the big money is. The Owners' Championship right now, I'm not even going to go over the driver points. It doesn't really matter. A lot of the guys are pretty much secured in their positions. But the Drivers' Championship right now is the Owners' Championship, as we head into Salem. 3 points separate the 18 and the 20. So when you think about that, we're kind of in the exact same situation as we were last year, man. If you remember last year at Toledo, the 20 car led the entire race, only for the 18 to move him out of the way with a couple laps to go and steal that Owners' Championship. Venturini was hot. And right now, the 18 car has done a great job of clawing back some of those points that they lost to now just a gap of 3 points. That crash at Kansas really, and I mean really, really hurt Venturini. In terms of other cars in the standings, the 25 car is third, the 2 car is fourth, and the 15 car is fifth. So the 3 full-time Venturini cars all in the top 5. The 32 is sixth, the 30 is seventh, and then you got the 4 Hillenberg cars rounding out the top 11. Then you got Clubb, Peterson, Brad Smith, who are the remaining full-time cars. Then you got the 55 Venturini car, which has run 14 races. And then you got, remember, the top 20 bonus. Top 20 bonus, get a bonus at the end of the year. Right now, that is being held the last 2 positions of the 45 car and the 73 car. So We could see some of those cars sneak in at Toledo. I do believe Grant Enfinger and the 97 team are scheduled to run Toledo like Enfinger ran in the race last year. So Toledo will have a big field. I think Toledo will easily pull in around 25 cars like it did last year. But this race is going to struggle for car counts. Do I think we'll see actual cautions in this race? Probably. I do think we'll see some cautions in this race. We do have some inexperience of guys like William Sawalch and Brent Cruz. The inexperience of Frankie Muniz, other guys, making their first starts at Salem. We got Brayton Laster, Christian Rose, who don't have a lot of experience at this track. John Garrett, who doesn't have a lot of experience at this track. Connor Popplewell, he's going to be making his ARCA debut. Both of the Peterson cars, they could spin out potentially. Like I said, anything can happen in this race. Anything can happen. Anything probably will happen. But it wouldn't shock me, guys, if you see the 20 and the 18 take each other out. I'm telling you, if there's one thing you really got to watch these next two races is that 18 and the 20. I think the funniest thing possible is if they took each other out and the 69 and Will Kimmel went on to win the race. That'd be the best thing ever. I'm not going to lie. I want to see Will Kimmel win this race so badly. Everybody wants to see Will Kimmel win this race. I don't think there's not a person watching this show that doesn't want to see Will Kimmel win a race because it's hard to believe Will Kimmel has never won an ARCA race. The closest he has came was the 2014 race at Pocono where he finished second to Justin Allison. I believe he's had maybe a couple of other second-place finishes since then, but Will Kimmel has never won an ARCA race. Hard to believe. It's really, really hard to believe. Now, Kimmel Racing has won an ARCA race, but that was back in the Frank Kimmel days. They have won races, but it's been a while. Yeah. I will be at the race in real life at Salem. Oh, good. Well, we got Dawson in the chat. He'll be at Salem. Good. Well, we expect updates on next week's show, Dawson, if that's the case. Going over the entry blank for this race. Again, I believe we got 19 cars entered. So the top 19 on the entry blank. Last place is $1,000. Again, I really wish we could get these payouts up. It does frustrate me. I'm not going to lie. The fact that the difference between 19th place and 4th place is $1,000. Think about that. 4th place to last is a difference of $1,000. Come on. We got to get these payups by $1,000 or $2,000. We diss on that all the time. We do because I think it's a legitimate problem. Back in the 90s and early 2000s, these payouts were not considered horrible because, everything was a lot cheaper back in the day. Parts were easier to get. Parts were cheaper. Gas was cheaper. Diesel was cheaper. Everything was cheaper. Well, we're in a day where everything costs way too much. It's all ridiculous. And these payouts don't cover crap. They really don't. Guys like Brad and Alex Clubb and Andy Hillenberg are barely hanging on with these payouts. Even an extra $1,000 a week would do so much. And I really do mean that. An extra $1,000 would do so much. But first place gets $13,100. Second place gets $6,100. And third place gets $3,850. Again, the owner's championship bonus in the ARCA series, $375,000 is up for grabs. So series point fund, lots of money, man, up for grabs. So like I said, ARCA Race Menard Series does pay pretty well. But the problem is it rewards the teams that run the whole season. That's kind of where you got to do the ARCA. And that's why you see guys like Peterson and Brad try to run the entire year because that's where they make their money at the end of the year. Same with Alex Clubb. That's where they make their money. But yeah, of the two races, I will say this, as much as I'm looking forward to Salem, I will say, and I think a lot of us can probably agree, I think personally that the Roseville All-American, I think that race is actually going to be better. I do, because it's a smaller track. You're going to be beating the crap out of each other every single lap. I actually think the West Series race is going to show up the main race. I do. I really do. As much as I love Salem, I do love Salem. I think All-American Speedway is going to put on the better race. But if Will Kimmel wins, well, then that's the best race of the whole weekend. If Will Kimmel wins the race, I promise you guys, if Will Kimmel wins this race, next week's podcast, we will throw a party. I will get the streamers. I'll get those weird sticks. We'll party like it is 1999 if Will Kimmel can win this race. I promise y'all. I want everybody here next Tuesday or Thursday, whatever day we do it, if Will Kimmel can somehow win this race. But yeah, lots of championships on the line. For anyone who might not know, the ARCA fans, we only got 2 main races left, but we still got 4 ARCA West Series races left. So we're still going to be here, even though the ARCA main division ends in 2 weeks next week. This weekend will be race 19, and next weekend is Toledo. But even though that is it, we're still going to be going for a couple more weeks because for the ARCA West Series, we obviously got Madera, we've got the Bull Ring at Las Vegas, and of course the season finale race with the NASCAR divisions in Phoenix. So for all my fans and all the followers, just because next week's is going to be the final main division race does not mean our season's over. It's kind of weird that the main division ends before the West Series does. But I think it's just because the NASCAR division ends so late in the year. So, yeah, kind of weird, guys. Kind of weird. Yes, Hurricane, you're going to be at All-American. We're counting on you for updates. We are counting on you for updates. And Hurricane, if you have a Twitter, get into my DMs and send me photos. Send me photos. I'll repost them because try to get some car photos in the field if you can, Hurricane. But we're counting on you. Dawson, you got the Salem updates. Hurricane, you got the All-American updates. All right. Everyone's got their mission here. All right. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys tonight. Ironically enough, we have no race review show. This is just 2 previews, which means on next week's podcast, we'll have 2 reviews and then a preview for the championship race. Like I said, hopefully we'll have some big numbers for some podcast viewerships. I would love to get some ARCA drivers here in the off season. That's the hope. Hopefully a lot of the ARCA garage still likes me. I know I can say some weird things sometimes, but hopefully the ARCA garage still loves me. I love all of them. Yeah, that was a lot of talking, and you guys are still here. So I guess I'm doing something right. Anyway, guys, I'm going to get out of here on this Thursday night. I hope you guys enjoyed the weekend of racing at Talladega for the NASCAR divisions and All-American Speedway in Salem for the ARCA divisions. Should be a very, very fun weekend of racing, and we will be back here on Tuesday for either backmarker battles or ARCA Racing podcast. It all kind of depends on when the entry list comes out. Either way, I will see you guys next time, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central Time. Again, like, subscribe to the channel, turn on that bell, hit that damn bell so you guys never miss a podcast when we go live. Leave a like on the video, please. We're at only 2 likes. Let's get that likes up to at least 10. And again, have a great Thursday and a great weekend. I'm Colby Evans, and I'll give you guys the goodbye salute, and I'll catch y'all later. So long.